after only 3 days of attempts, so unfortunately, it wasn't as polished as I'd have liked it to be. Once I arrive in the room Adam West is in, I need to be very careful to not only avoid detection, but grab this ticket stub by the very edge of Stewie's hitbox to avoid a lengthy cutaway gag. Thankfully, I did manage to pull this off. I swear it's so much more difficult than it looked. Once I finish the next room, we'll mark the end of this section of the dog race area. Afterwards, we'll be back at Bertram's lair as Stewie. After clearing out the enemies, I'll jump onto this lift, walk off of it, and press this button, and then quickly jump back onto the lift as it raises, skipping half the puzzle for this area. Then all I have to do is fly into this force field to damage abuse and skip the rest of it. I'll need to take out these turrets and enemies to open the door, which is easy enough because if I shoot the turrets right in the barrel, they'll explode in one shot. Next up will be a sliding section auto-scroller, and I just need to traverse through while avoiding the toxic waste and collecting health pickups, pretty easy overall. Then I'll have to get through this conveyor belt section of traps to get deeper into the lair. Let's see how that goes. News to me? Now listen, for some reason every other time I jumped off that blade, it worked out great. For some reason, I literally could not jump off of it, and I died. Anyways, once I get to these presses, I jump onto the nearby one and use it to skip the whole segment, which is one of the first skips I ever found in this game. In the next part, I'll make my way through until I reach these elevator platforms. If I do a combination of a bunch of glides and double jumps, I'll be close enough to the wall that I can do a double jump and clip through the ceiling to the next segment. After finishing this section, we'll now be in the heart of Bertram's lair. It turns out Bertram was also planning on controlling the minds of the entire world by blasting a satellite into space, and he even has Rupert trapped inside of it. To stop Bertram and save Rupert, I'll have to blow up the satellite, which of course I have a pretty cool quick shot for that Toxic showed me.
Heavens, those blast doors only leave a small hole for fireproof.
That was so Toxic.
And every fast man is ever toxic.
Shout out to Toxic. Beautiful. After destroying the satellite and rescuing Rupert, Bertram challenges Stewie to a one-on-one battle on the playground to settle their differences. Meanwhile, Peter has finally made his way to the dock, but out of nowhere, some of the scraps launched from the destroyed satellite land straight on him, giving him another head injury. This time he arises from the scrap metal as a robot ninja, and carries on to find Mr. Belvedere. But for the first time in this run, I'm not going to play this level as Peter, and will instead use a character swap glitch to play as Stewie instead. It is technically faster to speedrun this level with Peter, but it is really difficult and requires a bunch of different wall clips. I especially wasn't confident enough with the wall clip by the seals, so I opted for using Stewie instead to traverse through the level from out of bounds. Playing through this level as Stewie is really weird because the camera follows Stewie from behind when it's supposed to be locked in place. I'll first walk next to the trash can to load some of the level, and then fly around out of bounds to avoid all of the enemies. To get through this gate towards the end, all of these seals need to be defeated because there is a giant invisible wall surrounding the gate, which is really difficult to get past. So I just hop on this rock where you're normally not able to stand, and the seals will jump off of here, allowing me to continue. This next part is really simple. I have to collect the beers that are falling down, which is pretty funny to do with Stewie, and in some ways a lot easier due to his faster movement speed and ability to hover. But he does have a smaller hitbox, which can make it difficult to pick up some of the beer, so I want to stay perfectly centered to avoid missing any of them. If I do happen to miss a beer, not only do I fail the challenge, but I'll end up soft blocking the game, so it's really important that I don't miss a single one. Next we'll be back at the dog tracks with Brian near the concession stand. For this level, we used to play it as Brian for a long time, but it was finally decided that Stewie was faster, eliminating Brian out of the run entirely. But to do this quickly as Stewie requires some precision to not get caught by the police and breach the cycles on time. You can see in my first attempt, I do get caught by the police, which is quite unfortunate because on my second attempt, I don't get caught, despite it barely looking any different than the first. I'll need to walk into the concessions area to pick up a food carrier, since that's what you're supposed to do as Brian. This puts me on a perfect cycle to avoid the greased up deaf guy. The most optimal way to do this level is to reach the final ticket stub without the police officer catching you. But since I already got caught once, I didn't want to risk losing any more time and opted for waiting for him to turn his back to continue. In the next part of this level, I have to fulfill the orders of the people in the stands, which of course is much faster as Stewie, since we can fly around, which ends up making it slightly faster than playing as Brian, despite having to waste time performing the character swap glitch. After this challenge, Brian finally matches the sound of the culprit, so now he needs to devise a plan to lure them out. He decides that if he wins the dog race, maybe the culprit will be revealed. To win the race, Brian will drug all of the other competitors. Per usual, I'll character swap as Stewie, begin going to each of the dog pools, putting poison in each of them. Again, it's so easy to fail these missions as Stewie, because you have to move so precisely and on cycle. In this case, I jumped towards this dog pool, but I missed jumping on the table before it, and didn't have the height to avoid detection. I didn't realize how important this was, but I couldn't really go back and jump on the table anyways, because even that would be enough to throw me off cycle. On my second attempt, I ended up overcompensating and flew too high over the bull, avoiding hit detection once again, which also threw me off cycle. Thankfully, third time's a charm, now onto the race. Since all the dogs are poisoned, even as Brian we'd have no issue getting first place. But it is pretty funny that we still get to play as Stewie for the second. Upon winning the race, completes the final objective of Brian's storyline. Just before getting arrested, Brian officially reveals who the culprit is. Can you guess? No? Can't? Yeah, it's, Quagmire. None of the characters are really shocked by this, I guess, and they just mix a joke in afterwards, and that's it for the Brian arc. Flipping back over to Peter, we're still at the docks, but this time we will actually be playing as Peter. I'll continue running on the docks until I reach the beach, but instead of running on the beach, I'll push this guy selling hot dogs into the water and jump onto the rocks in the background to get out of bounds. Yeah, I guess there was an oversight here on where the boundary for falling into the water and keeping Peter off the rocks is connect. So if anything, I don't know if we could even consider this a glitch. Anyways, I'll cruise past the entire beach section out of bounds, which used to be one of the more deadly sections of the run. Once I get to the end, I want to collect some snack meter and then head into this cave. Upon entering, we'll be stopped by Seamus, who finally wants to put an end to Peter's tyranny. You know, because at this point, we've probably killed over 100 people in Quahog. He brings in the Black Knight for a boss battle. This fight is pretty easy though, and he's taken out with a simple food frenzy. I tried beating him while standing towards the bottom of the screen because for some reason this skips a cutaway gag after the fight, but he wasn't having any of that. So I redirected the food frenzy and finished him while still having to do the cutaway, losing a bit of time. The nice helmet lands on Peter's head, returning him back to normal just as Lois catches up with him. She reprimands him for hunting down Mr. Belvedere because obviously he isn't even a real person, and the person who plays the character on the show has already been dead for several years. Peter feels awful about what he did to all the people he harmed. Lois recommends maybe apologizing and making amends with all the people he's wronged, which is really just a different way of telling him to go drown his hours with booze, so he heads to the Drunken Clam. Flipping back over to Stewie, we'll first be fighting Bertram at the basketball court. Bertram will make a bunch of clones of himself, which are easily taken out with a penetrating shot. I want to try to shoot the clone in the back left last, as the last clone will always be the real Bertram, and this will shorten the distance it takes for him to walk back into position. After doing this for a couple waves, we'll leave Bertram on the ground crying. Stewie makes fun of him, calling him a big baby. So then, of course, he literally turns into a big baby, moving our fight to the playground. I'll need to keep shooting Bertram's feet until he starts tripping, and then climb up the playground equipment to shoot his head. I want to shoot his feet from the left side, that way the bullets from the penetrating shot will hit both feet at the same time, doing double damage. I can also use the double jump to clip through some of the platforms to avoid having to grapple up top. After doing 3 shots, some of the equipment will get destroyed, forcing me to shoot from the right side instead. In my run, I go around here using the same strats you'd see in a casual playthrough, but apparently you can also clip through the first platform and use that height to fly around a different way, which is pretty cool. After doing 3 shots, we'll lead to the third phase of the boss fight at the sandbox. By standing on the right side of the area will position me slightly closer to the sandbox, making the camera transition slightly quicker. The sandbox is pretty much the same deal as the other 2 phases, but even easier. By standing right by Bertram's shadow, allows me to avoid the wave from his stomp attack. Also, this time we don't have to glide around the level at all, and just have to shoot his gun after he falls over. After the 3rd shot is fired, we'll finish the boss fight and conclude the Stewie section of the video game. During the cutscene, just before Stewie finishes him off, Bertram pulls out the ultimate trap card. He calls for his mommy, leaving them to conclude this for another day. Flipping back over to Peter once more, he's now at the Drunken Clam, venting to Horace the bartender. After taking a sip of his beer, he takes another glance at Horace, only to notice he's actually Belvedere, which is actually just the evil chicken in disguise, leading to a classic evil chicken fight as the final battle. But instead of fighting the evil chicken, I'll instead use a character swap glitch to switch to Stewie. Stewie completely breaks the chicken fight for several reasons. The first reason is, the chicken doesn't even spawn in with Stewie there. But if he doesn't spawn in, then how do you even progress? Well, weirdly enough, the developers left the dev exit in each section of the chicken fight, and with Stewie's mobility, it's pretty easy to get out of bounds to reach them. The only thing is the camera position makes the controls feel kinda like they're inverted, but once I got used to it, I started getting pretty decent at moving with the walking controls. After reaching the cargo plane, I'll load my autosave to load back in as Peter, and continue the fight normally from here. It is possible to continue abusing dev exits all the way to the final fight, but clipping out of bounds and moving in the cargo plane is exceptionally difficult. I have no idea how Toxic does this first try in his PB, but he makes it look so easy, it literally blows my mind. Anyways, back to my run. Once I switch to Peter, I'll begin using the head bash combo, as it's really fast and does a lot of damage to the chicken. Once the chicken is knocked down, I'll do a spin move to finish him off, proceeding to the following area. Each time I enter a new location, I'll reload my save file, as apparently this makes it so the chicken doesn't fly up into the air during the fight and saves a bit of time. Once I got to the final area, I began doing my normal combos until the chicken got knocked down. The second I noticed he was knocked down, I inputted for the spin move, but didn't realize it would finish the leg sweep combo instead, and this gave the chicken enough time to stand back up before I could finish him off. This was kind of unfortunate, but then once he landed, I dealt with it quickly. Here's how the run ended up finishing, plus the final cutscene.
Let's finish this bitch off. There it is! There it is. There it is, guys. We'll take it. I'll take that all day. Every day of the week. I'll take it.
Oh, crap.
Oh my God, Peter, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, Lois. In fact, I learned something today. You can't always trust your feelings. Especially after watching 5 straight days of Mr. Belvedere with no sleep, and while constantly getting hit in the head by a very coincidentally large number of objects.
Well, I learned that the dog track is horse racing for poor people.
And I learned that I've got to stop overscheduling myself. I mean, look at this, booked solid through next Thursday.
You know, there's just one thing I don't get. I know I was out of my mind in every way, but I swear that Mr. Belvedere head floating up in the sky was real. Hey, there it is again! What the hell is that?
Oh, you're a hoot, Mr. Belvedere. Okay, now here's my screech.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. After 4 days of practice, 3 days of runs, I managed to improve my old PB by over 30 minutes and managed to achieve what I always believed to be impossible. Oh, I also ended up beating Liquid Wi-Fi's run too. Huge shoutouts to everyone in the Family Guy community, notably Megatoner, Chloe, and Toxic, for making this speedrun what it is today, and also for helping coach me to get to the level I got to in such a short period of time. Last month, Toxic managed to incorporate all of the most difficult strats in this game into a run and got an insane time of 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 12 seconds. Literally only a minute and 12 seconds off of some of the best segments, which is about as close to perfect as you can get. Anyways guys, that's all I have for today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, as that's the best way to show support. Thanks again to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Make sure you check out my link in the description to get 20% off all their products, plus free shipping. Also be sure to follow me on Twitch and subscribe to my YouTube to catch my